Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're someone whose inner world feels less like a tidy room and more like this vast, complex landscape
Hmm.
full of layers of thought, high sensitivity, and just constant emotional input, then this deep dive is, well, it's specifically for you.
Absolutely.
We took a huge stack of research, all focused on managing those energetic and emotional demands placed on what we're calling the deep thinker.
Right.
And we're tackling a concept that is so often misunderstood, boundaries. But we're not talking about building cold walls or issuing ultimatums.
No, not that at all. We're talking about something radically transformative, a completely new internal architecture.
I like that, internal architecture.
That's right. The mission today is to totally shift your perception of what a boundary is.
Yeah.
We analyze material tailored for the intuitive and sensitive person
Yeah.
to move the definition away from these firm statements you make at others and towards something more like an internal protective system.
So it's not about pushing people away?
It's about ensuring you have the structure to stay present.
Okay, so the core insight we pulled out, the phrase that really frames this whole dive is, it's profound. Boundaries are set not to create distance, but explicitly to stay whole.
Exactly.
We're going to unpack how setting these self-defined limits can function as the architecture of peace for a deep mind.
And we should start there because that language is so crucial. When most people hear the word boundary, they think, I don't know, conflict avoidance.
Right, like I'll set this rule so I don't get angry later.
Precisely. But for the deep thinker, the boundary is, well, it's far more sophisticated.
It has to be right.
Yeah.
Because if you're highly intuitive, you're experiencing life on this energetic, emotional level that's way below the surface of just a normal conversation.
Hmm.
Wait, so when you talk about this deeper, more subtle view, what does the research say are the components of an effective boundary for this kind of mind?
What's fascinating is the source material gives us this triple definition. It turns what feels like a defensive act into a really intentional creative practice.
Okay.
It says a boundary isn't just an external limit. It is first an inner agreement.
An inner agreement.
Second, it's a set of sacred instructions you give yourself on how you'll navigate the world. And third, it all comes together to become the architecture of peace.
I love that phrase, inner agreements. It really suggests the real work happens inside of you first.
It does.
So if a boundary is an inner agreement, how does that actually, translate into behavior?
It means you commit internally before you ever communicate externally. So if your inner agreement is, I need silence to process my thoughts,
Yeah.
the external instruction might just be, I need some time before I respond. The sacred instruction is that pathway you commit to, and it's a path to emotional safety.
So it's you telling yourself, I choose peace over performance, meaning I'm not going to sacrifice my own calm just to meet some urgent demand.
Exactly. Or I choose clarity over confusion. I'm just not going to engage in debates designed to keep me spinning.
And the most important commitment we found in all this was I choose myself without abandoning others.
That's the one.
That's the balance everyone is looking for, isn't it? The boundary lets the deep thinker stay connected without completely losing themselves in the process.
Precisely. And that brings us to why these are so uniquely necessary for highly intuitive or sensitive people. Your environment, your inner landscape, it's inherently a high-demand place to be.
Because your inner world is already full of noise and demand and constant emotional exchange. If you're what the material calls highly porous,
Meaning you just absorb the emotions and the energy in a room without even trying.
yes, then you need a level of sophisticated protection that most people they don't require it.
We really have to name those specific traits that demand this kind of architecture. Your mind is layered. You're processing 3 thoughts deep while others are still on the surface.
Right.
Your emotions don't just run, they run wide, which gives you this expansive empathy. And your intuition. It absorbs so much atmospheric data.
Things most people don't even notice.
Exactly. If you feel the tension in the air before anyone even speaks, you need proactive energy management, not just reactive comments.
This complexity means boundaries can't be one size fits all, and the research we looked at was really clear about 2 distinct types of protection. Let's start with the one most people recognize.
That would be emotional boundaries. These are the ones designed to protect your heart, your feelings, your needs, your vulnerabilities. They manage the immediate interaction.
Okay, so give us some examples.
Sure. The research has clear ones. They're usually about respect and timeline. Things like, I can't continue this conversation when you're yelling. That protects your emotional stability.
Or I need time to process before I reply. That protects your need for space.
Yes, those are clear requests for how an interaction should go.
But this is where it gets much more interesting, where the needs of the deep thinker really kick in. Energetic boundaries.
Hmm.
I honestly think most people don't even have the language for this until they've been completely flattened by a relationship or a job.
This is so critical. Energetic boundaries govern your exposure, not just your reaction. Think of it less like a wall and more like an emotional filtration system.
Okay, so what does that look like?
It's about proactively limiting time around chaotic or highly dramatic people because you know their instability literally infects your system.
It's about only bonding deeply with people who feel emotionally steady, safe.
And it's the act of stepping back the instant your intuition signals unsafe, even if the words being spoken seem totally fine.
That's the key insight, right? Deep thinkers need these because they literally feel the atmosphere of others, not just their words.
Your proactive energetic defense has to be trusted.
Okay, so we've defined the purpose and the types, but now we have to hit the roadblock, the one that gets everyone, guilt.
The guilt trap. It's absolutely real.
If you're someone who feels things really deeply, setting a boundary can trigger this wave of guilt that feels almost like a physical ache.
It's worse for the intuitive person because they're so good at empathizing with the other person's potential disappointment.
You instinctively avoid causing harm, and you're terrified of being misunderstood as selfish or cold, so you avoid it.
So why do we feel that rush of guilt, even when we know, logically, that we're just protecting ourselves?
I think it's conditioning.
It is. The moment you choose yourself, you are violating maybe decades of conditioning that taught you your main job was to manage everyone else's emotions.
So the narrative has to shift.
The shift we need to embrace is, it's simple, but it's hard. Guilt is not a sign you are doing something wrong. It is a sign that you are conditioned to forget yourself.
Wow, that reframes everything. You're not acting out of malice, you're just reclaiming forgotten territory.
Exactly. The foundational reframe to carrying into every boundary conversation is this. You are not rejecting people, you are accepting yourself.
Setting a boundary is the ultimate act of self-acceptance.
It overrides all that old programming.
And for when that old conditioned guilt rises up, that physical ache you mentioned, you need a tool ready to go, a mantra.
An anchor.
We found one that speaks directly to the deep thinker's needs. My needs are valid. My peace matters. My energy is sacred.
That's the one to hold on to.
Okay, let's move into the practical side. We know deep thinkers value clarity over, confrontation. They struggle with the aggressive language that you see in pop culture.
Right. Not everyone is built for a big, hostile showdown.
No, if you're a quiet communicator, you need tools that are firm but also gentle. So let's share some of those non-hostile scripts.
Good idea.
If someone is pressuring you for a decision and you feel rushed, you can just say, I need a moment to think before responding.
Simple. It protects your processing speed.
If it's about the energy someone's bringing into the room, you can say, I care about you, but I'm not available for this energy right now.
And if something in your gut just feels wrong, maybe the clearest, most honest statement is, this doesn't feel aligned with me.
It's honest, it's simple, and it works.
Okay, now we move to what is probably the most overlooked area of boundaries, but it's the most important for that architecture of peace lifestyle.
Boundaries with yourself.
That's it.
We are so good at trying to build external walls, but then we just constantly abandon ourselves internally. We break our own agreements.
All the time.
For the deep thinker, what are the specific internal limits we have to set?
We have to set limits on our own internal chaos. First, limiting overthinking and self-criticism. That might mean scheduling time to worry and then stopping when the time is up.
And what else?
Second, setting limits on emotional overfunctioning. That's, jargon for taking responsibility for everyone else's emotional state, fixing their problems, agonizing over their moods.
Oh, that's a big one.
And third, setting limits on ignoring your body's signals, the tension, the hunger, the exhaustion. When your body says stop, that is a boundary.
So the ultimate internal commitment has to be, I will not abandon my needs to maintain harmony.
Because if you betray yourself, the external boundaries will always, always crumble.
Let's apply this to the two highest stakes areas, the places where deep thinkers often suffer the most: love and family.
In love, the primary danger for a deep thinker is merging. Connection feels so good that there's a huge risk of completely losing yourself in the partnership.
Emotional consumption.
That's what we call it. Boundaries in a relationship protect your solitude, your processing time, and critically, your intuitive clarity, which gets muffled by the noise of a partnership.
This is so key. Love that requires you to erase yourself isn't sustainable. It's not love, it's a demand.
What about family?
Family often means you have to actively step out of roles you were assigned as a kid, being the emotional anchor or the mediator.
The designated stress absorber for everyone.
Yes, you have the right to step out of those roles. Family should not mean access without consent.
And you can be direct about it. When you see a family conflict brewing, you can state very clearly, I hear you're struggling, but I am not available for emotional labor today.
You're setting a boundary around a role, not the relationship itself.
That's a huge distinction.
Okay, finally, let's spend a moment on recognizing those who try to bend this new structure. The research categorizes different types of boundary violators.
It does. They're classified as the entitled, who believes they deserve your time no matter what.
The emotional dumper, who uses you as a trash can for their crisis.
The clinger, who needs constant reassurance. And the tester, who just keeps pushing to see what they can get away with.
And the crucial insight here is that you have to trust your intuitive signal before your brain tries to rationalize their behavior.
Your gut knows.
Your gut knows these people long before your brain admits the danger.
That's the whole point. The deep thinker feels the violation happening energetically first. If you feel dread or tightness or anxiety around someone, trust that signal.
Your energy is your most sacred asset.
Protect it.
So what does this all mean for you if you're feeling overwhelmed by the world?
We've gone from seeing boundaries as a source of conflict to viewing them as the foundational structure that holds your complex inner world in place.
They're not limitations. They are liberation. They create the room you need to breathe, to feel, to create, to love, and to evolve without fracturing.
Without this internal architecture, you constantly deplete yourself. With it, you flourish. It's not about keeping people out. It's about allowing your authentic self to finally be present and available.
And as our final provocative thought for you to explore this week, consider the self-boundary, the commitment. I will listen to my intuition the first time. Just reflect on the immediate impact that one agreement, that one sacred instruction would have on your daily peace. We'll leave you with that. Dive deep.